So Madeline, when I first visited here, this is the machine that like stole my heart. I had no idea it existed, and I can't believe how much infrastructure was required. Tell me what this does.
This draws lines. Basically, before computers, everybody had ledgers. These were the Excel spreadsheets of their times.
It had never occurred to me, how do these blue and red and multicolored lines
And why
get
do
drawn?
they not do it at offset? And they didn't have offset printing in those days. Basically, every business had its own style
of ledger.
Yeah, I mean, the Union Pacific Railroad had ledgers that were reportedly 6 feet wide. Turning the page on those suckers must have been lots of fun. So, and a mom and pop grocery or a school or a municipality would have different needs. So basically you would call up your stationary printer. There's a couple of images up there of stationary printers.
Right.
And say, hi, it's me. My reorder number is 727. I need 100 more ledgers or 10 more ledgers or whatever. And they would look in their own ledger and find the description of how the page was going to be laid out.
And that would be all of the lines, their spacings,
all of the columns, the
colors.
spacings, the colors, the whole 9 yards.
The numbering on every page. No, okay. Oh, this is like the 2-entry ledger system is used the world over for accounting, but everyone still has their own.
Well, because they care about different things.
Right.
You know, and your mom and pop grocery store probably doesn't have, or the school district has the name of the kid and their teacher and possibly their parents' names and the grades, you know.
Wow.
It's just different needs. So once they had the order, they would set up the machine using these what are called combs.
That's the thing that blew my mind. These are
They're pens.
Pens that draw the lines, and they're capillary.
Basically they're just little tiny grooves, and
little troughs.
You would put them in the striker bar here,
right?
And then you would ink up with a very, very wet, loose ink the piece of cloth, and it would be drawn into those pens.
So that's how you meter out the small amount of ink at a regular level so that the line consistency was...
A paper is fed.
Wow.
And so you can set this up with as many different colors and conformations, and if you had maybe one or two, you know, a single line, you would probably feed it using a piece of yarn.
So you'd use the capillary action of cloth to exploit the capillary action of fine metal troughs.
And
you might have, and so each one of these buckets might be filled with a different color of ink.
And if you notice these buckets, which I've never seen actually in process, but that would be cool, would have a little dripper, so it would just drip.
That is crazy.
So it's a very thoughtfully designed machine. It's just like, wow. And then there are other things, like say you have a place where you want the machine to stop turning, or the pens to raise up, because these are all on springs. So you could put in...
Oh, so you could build in small cams in order to...
It's almost like programming. You know, you could set it up so that it would raise, and then when it got past that, it would drop down again.
Oh, so in a way, the ledger of how the machine was set up was like the punch card of a jacquard loom.
Yeah, actually, that's very much like that. And you've got 3 striker bars, so you could have a different color here for some others, for a different stripe. So you would run all the paper through on one direction. It would be fed, we don't have it here, but there's a blanket that will carry the paper back around, at which point you flip it over and do it the other way. And when you've got your 10,000 sheets or whatever it is you're printing, then you'd turn them all around, you'd reset the machine for the verticals, and run the verticals.
Oh, right, so every line had to be fed through at a different...
Yeah, so it's a 4-feed process if you're doing, you know, front, back, horizontal, and vertical.
You're feeding each page through 4 times.
It's a lot faster than sitting there like Bob Cratchit, drawing lines with a pencil and hoping you get through it.
When was this machine built?
This machine, we think, is probably from about 1905, 1910. It could be a little earlier, but I know that San Francisco downtown had a whole slew of stationery printers because, of course, everybody needed ledgers.
And it was a big city, so there was lots of commerce and everyone.
Lots of commerce.
So you told me about a situation in which, after the 1906 earthquake.
Yeah, the 1906 earthquake hits, and then the fire, which did more damage than the earthquake. And all of these places were down in this area, and they were all taken out. And suddenly, aside from business generally being in disarray, nobody can replace or buy new ledgers in San Francisco because there are no pen rulers.
And because of that...
Well, Hickok, which is, I think they're still in operation. We double-checked this with them a few years ago, I believe, and found out that they had the overtime records. They put on a night shift, and over the next 6 months, they produced 13 of these magnificent machines and sent them out. Now, they were
help San Francisco's commerce
basically
restart.
Because you couldn't just, call somebody else and say, hey, can I get in the queue and could you do this for me? Everybody had business and
everyone was at their capacity.
And it wasn't going to happen. So supposedly Hickok saved San Francisco by producing pen rulers. I think that's perhaps an overstatement.
But I also love the fact that the machine has its own workstation here for the storage of chemicals. Off camera, I cracked this drawer. It seems full of some of its original tools.
Maybe. This machine was donated to us, and we have so many of these combs. It's just terrifying.
Oh my God, it's just amazing to me. This is sort of a product of the industrial age, right? They made a machine that could make these, but then they can use them to hand draw these lines.
And since there's sewing, you still need a thimble. And the things that were produced on a machine like this would have been hand sewn because they were so large.
They couldn't fit into a normal binder.
And probably needed the extra structural support that hand sewing gives.
Wow.
So, but and these were apparently shipped in boxes, and they'd send a guy from the factory, and the guy would come with the pen ruler and assemble it. So
I got you. Wow.
Like a nightmare of IKEA furniture right there.
Except without one little hand wrench.
Yeah.
But I love also all the Hickok here in the castings, and up there they've got this real
they were
repeating
not shy
refrain.
about branding.
No, they were advertising themselves.
Well.
And also, as someone who is obsessed, I'm obsessed with patinas of use, and I'm going to take a picture of this because
this is just. You can see the ink as well as the age.
Right. Yes, the color and you can see the ink getting, right, since things fall down, you can see it's getting darker with ink down here.
I love this machine. It's just gorgeous. Someday we're going to get it up and running.
Really?
That's someday.
I love that idea. It is not something that ever occurred to me how you draw lines on paper, and the answer is so much more complex than I thought it was possible to be.
Well, and the same companies would do index cards and
of course.
composition notebooks.
Right.
And the composition notebooks would be sewn on a sewing machine like the one we have in the window.
Amazing.
There has to be a way to do all of these things.
It's really, it's so thrilling. Thank you so much for
You're
walking
so
me through
welcome.
this.